I was nestled into my velvet green therapist chair one quiet Tuesday morning, sipping coffee gone lukewarm, when a new referral landed in my inbox. Sandra, female, 67, unemployed, possible domestic violence. The notes were sparse, but familiar. In my line of work, supporting clients from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, these details had become sadly routine. Over the years, I've welcomed countless women, and a few men too, who've walked through my door with broken ribs, shattered trust, and hearts so tightly guarded it could take weeks to hear their real voice. But something about this referral unsettled me. There was a sharpness to it, like a warning etched between the lines. Sandra had booked herself into the very last slot of my day, a spot I'd secretly been hoping would stay open so I could head home early. I almost canceled it out of laziness. I didn't. Something told me not to. Around midday, just as I was stepping outside for air, my phone rang, a blocked number. The voice on the other end was low, frantic, nearly drowned in static.
Sandra, domestic violence, long-term case. Her son, he's 33, possible embezzlement, $400,000 missing, threats, death.
I strained to catch every word, but the call cut off almost as abruptly as it began. No goodbye, just a promise. We'll fax you the file tonight. Then the line went dead. Finally, Sandra's appointment arrived. I think I was just as nervous as she was. When I stepped into the waiting room, I immediately spotted her. A small-framed, frail-looking woman hunched in the corner chair. She clutched a large canvas tote to her chest, stuffed with what looked like hundreds of papers, some neatly stapled, others sticking out at awkward angles like frantic wings. Her dirty blonde hair was tied back tightly in a high ponytail that pulled at her forehead. She wore a pale pink blouse tucked into dark blue jeans, an outfit that felt deliberately chosen, like armor meant to look casual. Her eyes were sunken with purplish hollows underneath, staring blankly at the floor tiles when I softly called her name. Sandra? She looked up slowly. Her eyes met mine, and for a split second, something flickered. Fear, dread, anticipation, maybe even hope. It passed too quickly to name, but it hit me like a jolt. Something in her was teetering on the edge. I offered her a warm smile. Come on in, take your time. She followed me down the hall, footsteps light and uncertain, as though she wasn't entirely convinced she wanted to be here. Once inside my office, she settled into one of the velvet green chairs across from mine. Her posture curled inward, shoulders slumped like she was folding into herself, bracing for impact. I took my seat opposite her, notebook balanced loosely on my knee. Hi, Sandra, I began, keeping my voice soft but steady. What brings you in today?
I wasn't sure I'd actually come. I almost turned around twice.
I'm glad you didn't, I replied gently. It's not easy walking through that door. She gave the faintest nod, eyes darting briefly to the bookshelf behind me, then back to the tote in her lap.
I've been meaning to talk to someone for a while, but I didn't know where to start, or if it would matter.
It matters, and we can take it slow, no rush. You can start wherever you feel ready. Sandra inhaled, shallow and shaky. Then she pulled one of the papers from her bag and smoothed it on her lap, eyes fixed on the text like it held her together.
I brought notes,
she murmured.
I write everything down, so I don't forget or get confused.
That's okay. We can go through them when you're ready, or we can just talk. Whatever feels safest. After a long silence, Sandra finally spoke.
It's about my son,
she said, her voice barely above a whisper.
Toby.
I nodded gently. Okay, go on. She stared down at her hands, fingers tightening around the hem of her blouse.
He took everything from me. Not just the money, everything. My safety, my future.
I leaned forward slightly, softening my voice. That sounds incredibly painful. Can you tell me what happened? Sandra inhaled shakily.
2 years ago, I sold my house after my divorce. It was mine, free and clear. I thought I thought I'd use that money to start over, maybe move closer to my sister, finally do something just for me.
She paused, eyes glassy and distant.
I didn't want to deal with the paperwork. Toby said he'd help. He convinced me to put the money in a joint account. Just for a little while, he said. Said it would be easier.
She laughed once, but it wasn't joy, it was disbelief. Hollow.
Within 6 weeks, the whole account was empty.
Empty? I echoed gently.
Gone. All 400,000. I asked him what happened, and he said he'd invested it. For us. For our future.
Her eyes flickered like she still couldn't believe it.
Turns out, he used the money to put a deposit on a house. A house I've never seen. In his name. Not mine. I begged him to explain. To return at least part of it. But he just kept talking in circles.
What did he say when you asked?
That I gave it to him.
She said bitterly.
That I forgot. That I was confused and overwhelmed. He said I agreed to it all, but I didn't. I remember every second of it.
She reached into her tote bag and pulled out a crumpled stack of papers. Bank statements, emails, handwritten notes.
I documented everything because he keeps trying to convince me I imagined it. That I'm unstable. That I'm the one who's broken.
I shook my head. Sandra, that's financial abuse. That's coercion. That's not your fault. She blinked hard.
I'm living in a unit with mold in the walls. I can't qualify for another loan because he took out credit cards in my name. Ruined my score. I didn't even know until the debt collectors started calling.
Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. She held herself together like glass barely keeping from shattering.
And the worst part? He tells people I'm losing it. That I'm delusional. He's even told my sister not to believe me.
I felt something twist in my chest.
I don't even know how to explain it to people. Everyone thinks abuse is bruises. But what do you call it when your own son is stealing your life out from under you, piece by piece?
You call it what it is, I said softly. Abuse. And Sandra, you're not alone in this anymore. Sandra sat back in the chair, fingers trembling as they traced the edges of a torn envelope. Her voice had steadied, but I could see the exhaustion in her bones.
I thought I'd raised a good man. He was kind once, sweet. When he was a boy, he used to cry when I killed spiders.
She paused, her voice catching.
Toby served in Afghanistan, 2 tours. He almost died over there, an IED explosion. Left him with injuries that put him on a disability pension. When he came home, I was so grateful just to have him alive. He seemed changed, but I thought it was just a trauma. I wanted to help him heal.
Her eyes filled with a mixture of grief and disbelief.
That's what makes this so hard to understand. Here was a man who served his country, who sacrificed so much, who I thought had honor and integrity. I trusted him completely because of who I believed him to be. A hero. My hero.
She shook her head slowly.
How could someone who risked everything for strangers turn around and steal everything from his own mother? Now he looks at me like I'm a burden, an obstacle.
I let the silence settle between us, heavy, but necessary. Why today? What made you come to see me today? I asked. She looked at me, and for the first time, there was fire behind her eyes.
He threatened to have me declared mentally unfit, said he'd get power of attorney, said I'd be better off in aged care while he handled things. Her voice dropped to a whisper. He called me a dying asset.
I felt a chill creep across my skin.
I packed my bag that night. I left the documents, the evidence, the statements, everything. I walked out the front door at 2 a.m. and haven't been back since.
Sandra exhaled shakily, wiping her eyes.
I want to fight. I want to get my money back. I want to take him to court. But more than that, she paused. I want to look in the mirror and not feel like I'm losing my mind.
I leaned forward, my voice clear and steady. You are not crazy. You are not weak. And you are absolutely not alone. She looked up, meeting my gaze with trembling relief. We're going to document everything, I said. Every email, every transaction. We'll work with legal advocacy, connect with domestic violence services, get you a financial abuse specialist. There are people who will believe you and stand with you. I'm one of them. Sandra nodded slowly, as if absorbing the words like medicine. Then, a flicker of something appeared in her posture. Her spine straightened. Her shoulders rolled back just slightly.
Good, because I've been silent for too long.
She reached into her tote and handed me a worn manila folder. Inside were photos of signed checks, forged applications, text messages, even a handwritten note from Toby, one I suspected he'd regret ever writing. You brought the storm with you, I said gently, thumbing through the evidence. She gave a small, rueful smile.
No, he did. I'm just finally learning how to stand in it.
As our session ended, Sandra stood up taller than she had when she walked in. She wasn't healed, not yet, but something had shifted. A war had been declared. If you would like to hear part 3, make sure you like and subscribe.